English? Okay, okay. Hi everyone, I'm Viola Kerekes from Hortobágy National Park. Thank you for coming. We have a guest, Ariadna Reida from the United States. And after she will introduce herself more in detail, like me, she will talk about how we can connect nature and people. What are the strategies, what are the examples? So please introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hello. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Ariadna, and I work for a non-profit organization in the United States called Earth Island Institute. It's a big organization that was around for many years, did a lot of pretty impactful things in the world, changing how people think about the environment and asking people to change their behavior. And I'm the person who does a lot of different environmental education projects, and I believe that environmental education is about changing behavior of people towards our planet. Because we talk a lot about it, but maybe not enough what we do. Anyway, I originally am from Russia, from Lake Baikal region, and I got my degree in biology from Russia, and then I moved to the United States. I got my master's degrees in environmental studies. And for many years, I served as a bridge between different countries to learn more about each other and how different people protect the world. So when you start working in this field, it seems that the scientists, they have their approach, the government has its own approach, and then the public is usually left in whatever they pick up a little bit from newspapers, nowadays social media, and sometimes it's difficult for them to figure out what to do. So to make these bridges, I learned a lot, and I tried to improve my communication skills. And one of the tools that I found that is the most useful, it's called interpretation. When you hear the word interpretation, the first thing comes to mind is languages, right? So, but this is interpretation that interprets the language of nature, of landscape, of historic buildings, and interprets it to the language that common people understand. And there is no such thing as general audience. It's always, there's a kid there, the grandmother, the politician, the businessman, and they all speak kind of different language. So when you think about educating any of them, you need to bridge this language, you need to try to speak a little bit of their language too. Or you can call for something that resonates with their heart, because we all have something that unites us: love, friendship, and when we talk about nature, we can call about that. So, and of course, when I got kids, that was a different universe. Now, everything that I was talking to students, professors, now I needed to apply it to my kids, and they are different audiences. Now they're quite big, and they have different interests. And how I talk to my 16-year-old, starting with Minecraft, because he's interested in that, and try to find connection between Minecraft and natural world, is different from how I talk to my 8-year-old girl who likes unicorns, and horses are much closer to her than Minecraft. So that's my little introduction. Can you tell me like 1 word about you? Are you zoology major, ecology major? Who is doing what here?
Zoology.
Zoology?
Hydrobiology. Hydrobiology.
Hydrobiology? Anybody else?
Animal science.
Say it again.
Animal science.
Animal
science.
Animal science. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So this is called a gateway community in English. There are beautiful mountains right and this is the place, the entrance place to a national park. It looks pretty big. It's similar to Debrecen, I would say, yeah, or Hortobayi. I had an honor visiting yesterday and learning more about your environment over here. I will start with the big picture, and it's difficult for me to talk to you because I don't know you very well. I know just a little bit that you studied at the university or your professors at the university. When you talk to the audience, it's important to understand who they are. Imagine your best friend and you're making a party for him, right? You know everything, so it will be a great party because you know your friend. When you talk a group of people and you know them a little bit, then it will be not that great a party. When you talk to people you don't know, then it's like, okay, I might get right on target or I might miss, right? So that's why some information maybe you know that I will be talking about, and some will be completely new, so I try to do my best. So I like to start with that we are trying to save the world. We always say that. But in reality, we are trying to save ourselves. Because we depend on nature. Nature, even the planet will be destroyed. It will be some life somewhere else at some point. But it's about pretty much us. And there were studies by people all over the world, and one of them that I truly admire, Edward Wilson, Harvard University. And his point is to make the planet livable for us humans as well as other creatures. You have to have half of the planet intact, where nature can rule itself, do things what nature needs to do. And another half we humans could have to do what we humans do. So this is a bigger picture that got narrowed down last year when the United Nations got together like small committee in Canada, and they narrowed down some ideas saying that if we save at least 30% of land and water intact, then we should be okay preserving biodiversity and making our planet a livable place. So that's why I put these two slides over here as a reminder why we are doing all that. National parks, they started in the United States. And the first one was Yellowstone back in 1872. So, and every year more and more parks are created. And now the 30 under 30 pushes countries to create more. So I work in Mongolia, and in the last 10 years or so, in the last 30 years or so, there were about 10 more national parks that have been created over there. Yeah. I looked up the map of your country, and in your country it says 10% of the land in Hungary is protected by national parks. So that's a lot of land, right? And how many people work in national parks? I mean, comparing to the whole population. The city of Debrecen doesn't work there. There will be, how many people work in your park, Villa?
It's 150.
150 people.
And all the rest is smaller.
Right. And they do different stuff. Some of people just do paperwork and accounting, right? There is those who will go and do just science. And when it comes to protection, what do we mean to protect? What do? We don't allow people to go there, or we don't allow them to do certain things. Are we protecting it from other people? Like, good question, right? So, this is a proud national park staff of the United States. It's not enough of them to protect. So, in order to protect, we do need public to be on our side. In many countries that I go and I ask them, like, do people understand the value of a national park? And they say, no, that's our biggest problem. Some people have no idea that national parks exist. Some people say that it's taking taxpayers' money to do something that nobody needs. And it's a hard call. And it would be some scientists, usually by themselves, talking to each other, saying we need to do something about it. And they agree on things. But the difficult part is how to get to the public to agree with the scientists, to agree with the government. Last year, it was a big documentary that showed up on Netflix. And the person who talked at the beginning was Barack Obama, introducing the treasure of the world, the national parks. You know that the United States is divided by two parties, the Democrats and Republicans. They have different views how to rule the country. But when you talk to public, to average person and ask about a national park, it doesn't matter, will it be Republican or Democrat? They all agree that it's important for them personally. For them, it's a value. And immediately we'll say, oh yeah, I've been to this one and this ones, and we traveled with kids somewhere, and we want to go somewhere else. So for them, it's a personal value. And we humans, we are this way. If it's personal to us, we love it, and then we protect it. So the first, I want to kind of go a little bit through the benefits of national parks that probably everybody knows, but I kind of coming from the American perspective. Back in 1916, when the first national parks were put together, the first law, the Organic Act, started to make sure that the Americans need to protect the scenery and the animals and the plants of wonderful places. So it became a big law, and it could be interpreted in different places, but that was one of the foundations of the environmental protection in national parks. Then there were many other laws that came up in 1960s. The law about protecting the scenic rivers that would protect the whole watershed of the river. The law about clean air and clean water that will also be reflected in the protection that's going on in national parks and other protected areas. And one of the laws that allowed scientists to claim certain territories where people cannot go was the Endangered Species Act that was done in 1973, I believe. And that allowed more research, more conservation programs, and also more education programs. So in the United States, to carry on environmental protection programs on protected lands, the government gives pretty good budget. It's never enough. You talk to anybody in any country, it's not enough what the government gives. But it's something that you can start with. The other big benefit, maybe you recognize this place if you've been recently to Hortobagi, like I was yesterday. They are preparing for the Crane Festival. It's how national parks are good for us humans, personally. Clean air, clean water, promoting physical health. And with COVID, we know about psychological health. How many of you went to nature during the COVID times? Yeah. It was, in the States, it was a disaster because a lot of people who never went to nature during COVID were going cuckoo in their heads, and they would go to nature, but they would not know how to behave there. And so much trash was left behind. They were not educated. They wanted the benefit because they heard of it. They just wanted to get out, but they didn't know the behavior. So, but we all know that from experience. When we talk to the government, to the managers, when we ask for grants, usually experience is not enough. So there is a scientific research that backs up that nature is good for you. Kind of ridiculous in our time, right? To go for, okay, we need some data. But it's good data, and if you're ever interested, I can show you where this research is located. And by the way, if you want the slides, I can send them to you. There are links to websites, so if you are interested, you can learn more about that. So there was a research done in 34 different countries all over the world, not only developed, but developing as well. And the research was to see people, to collect data from the people who live nearby national parks within about 60 kilometers and see how they're doing in comparison to the city people. And the discovery was pretty good. It was all above 15-20% on health benefits, physical benefits, and their overall health. So it's good for us. And I'm not even mentioning that anybody who comes, the bird watchers, the hikers, they would benefit because they don't come by themselves usually, they come in groups, and we are doing so much better when we talk to other people than we are by ourselves. That's usually what everybody is interested in, how much money the national parks bring. The first level of question, is it enough for the national park to go on, to have revenue from tourism mainly. But the amazing part that when the national parks exist, they help to make money not only for themselves, but for all these local, or as I said, gateway communities. So that's some statistics. For every $1 the taxpayers invest in national parks in the United States, it's about $10 in revenue. So it's big, take 10 times. And most of this money stays within the gateway communities. So if national park attracts people and works with local businesses and works with local people, then it's beneficial for local people to protect national park because that's their money-making machine. Without national park, they would not have an incentive to earn their income and live in a nice environment too. So I just put it out there because in many cases we forget that to create all that, the protected lands need to attract and retain, first of all, residents, so they don't leave the area somewhere else. Entrepreneurs, those who can make small business, small but good enough to live there, different businesses. And I'm not sure it is about your country, but for United States, it's very important. A lot of retired people come closer to national parks to live. It's not, that's the definitely big trend in the States. But I remember when I traveled in the forest in Russia, and there are some communities, they grow around national parks. And I asked one guy who lived in Moscow, worked here and there, and finally decided to become a teacher of the school and came in some village in the forest. And I asked him why. Because usually people go all the way to Moscow, try to go abroad. And he said, you know what, I get up, I can walk to school, my kids can walk to school, the air is amazing, it's great quality. If I want to go hiking, it's there, and kids can swim in a lake over there, and I know nothing is poisonous. They can drink from the river. So it's like slowly the culture of different value. Value not in a Ferrari car, not in a Rolex watch, not in having several houses, but the value of clean water and clean environment where we live in comes in. And it's growing, slowly growing. And by educating public about that, we have a chance to get people more into that. This is Joshua Tree entrance souvenir shop. Joshua Tree Park is located in the middle of the desert. And I know that there in the porta body, they say it's a pusto here, right? So it's nothing. At some point, Grand Canyon was called, it's a wasteland. So it was nothing. And then the national parks are created. So this is in California. It's a small place in the middle of nothing with amazing trees, Joshua trees there. And that's the fastest growing community in California right now. So everything I said, what does it have to do with you? What do you think? Why am I talking to you about that? You're a scientist, right?
Collaboration opportunities.
Collaboration opportunities.
Contributing research in national protection and conservation.
Protection and conservation. So as I said, parks, they grow in numbers, right? And when the national park is created, you need the basic data about the status. Like, what condition are all the species, the environment, and that's the job of the scientists to have that. And then creating the programs, conservation programs, they say we want the landscape be different, be more vibrant, right? What needs to be done, creating these plans and then measuring again what's like, did we improve or we didn't, it didn't work, so we need to do something different. And if you talk about environmental education, sometimes we forget about bigger picture and we concentrate on one species that has amazing gene pool. And we want to protect just that, but not necessarily looking about the whole ecosystem. So if you have hydrobiologists, animal biologists, if you have botanists, that makes sense that you have more rounded approach to all that. Then it will be a few ecologists working there. Many people, many opinions, hard work to agree. But if we talk to each other and we have a goal, not what I want, but what would be good for the planet, what would be good for this specific area, then it's a lot that we can do. So, again, there's a lot of scientists, but not that many. And involving citizens in helping scientists to do science is extremely important. How many of you use iNaturalist? Right, how many of you taught somebody else how to use iNaturalist? Right, so it's growing, and some scientists are not happy with that, right? They say that the data might not be as good, but there are programs that are getting better and better how to filter the data that it's pretty good quality. So, and then another part of that would be to use it as an education tool. And the protected lands can use iNaturalist and many other apps, right? What other apps in citizen science do you know or use? Do you use eBird, right? Globe, the night sky, Right, so there is a lot of different ones. And again, that's just different angles on the same territory that could be done. And that's one way of involving public into participating. And, right. There are a lot of programs that are done by national parks themselves to teach people about nature. In the United States, that's one of the biggest, that every national park you go, and at the end I will show you a booklet, but I will tell you about it now, that you come with kids and at the ranger station, they will give you a little booklet. And that will be a journal that asks kids of different ages to go and look at things and connect. Find so many mushrooms, find this something, explain a little bit about native people who live here and how it is working right now. What can you do, like not to step on certain species because they are rare. These little things, and when the kid goes around the park, he gets to learn all that and connect a little bit and be proud that he did his task, and then comes to the ranger station again. At the ranger station, my daughter went through that, very cute, and my sons too. So they come and the ranger will be very serious, asking, okay, what did you learn? Did you learn about leave no trace? Can you tell me why you should do and not should do that? And kids, you know, they are scared, but also this ranger is the head and everything official. But no question has their own answer. And the ranger will help out and then says, okay, now you're ready to become a junior ranger. You will be one of us. You need to take a pledge. And the kid stands and puts his hand up and repeats after the ranger simple words. I will be kind to the nature. I will protect. I will learn more. And he gets a little badge. And you go to every national park, and kids, they will drive their parents to go to another national park because they want another badge. So it's kind of silly, but you play with what kids are interested in, right? And it works. So in the United States, there is a program for the fourth graders across all protected lands, national park, forest service, national monuments, that says that a fourth grader and his family can visit any national park, any protected area for free while he is in the fourth grade. And they say they chose that because it's very impressionable age, when the kid not only excited about experience, but also understands about taking responsibility for that. So the government felt that it's reasonable to give so much money, right? So it's less revenue for national parks, to hook the next generation to come back to national parks and value them. Who developed these booklets? It was a combination of the scientific research and educators that got together and created something, right? I don't know, I don't see the right time, I think.
It's 33.
33, okay. So I want to talk a little bit about interaction, how public lands and public groups can interact with each other, because it's always a question how national park cannot do everything, right? So first, there are agreements that could be between national park and the NGO, non-profit organization, about providing services. One example that I really like is Nature Bridge. It's up top there. It's kind of not very big, it's not WWF, but it's a smaller non-profit, but it operates in several national parks. National park, right, like in Hortobagi, has a facility for running the summer camps and educational stuff, and Nature Bridge will shape the programs using scientific data, using the mission of national park, and their educators will come and work with the kids, and they work by agreement, beneficial to both. National park is proud and they have less work to do. Non-profit can go and ask for funding from government, from foundations, from private donors to support this program. And the idea to bring as many kids as possible. They do summer camps, they do school camps as well. When during the school year they bring kids there. Another agreement, which is with the company that's Grand Canyon and one of the rafting companies, when you educate the tour guides or they ask them to be certified that they cannot just take people rafting. They have to comply with what the national park tells them. They have a contract agreement that education is part of the contract. And the guides, they know very well. It has the point about rules, how to behave in a national park, as well as the content, why this land is protected, why it is significant for nature, and why it is significant to native people over there. This is another program that is everywhere in the United States. They started back in the 60s and 70s when people wanted to go to wilderness. Wilderness is usually in the States, it's an area that very few people can go, only with the permission. And you cannot have open fires, you cannot bring any motorized vehicles over there, so it's a pure hiking experience. And they, the initiative group of this program, they started it that small, just very small audience who goes to wilderness. Nowadays, it's expanded everywhere. They even have the programming that goes to the city parks. And the dogs, that they go poop everywhere, and they ask the owners to pick up after their dogs. They do education why they should do that. And that's another kind of side story. The feces used to be a normal part of an ecosystem, but how we eat ourselves and what we feed our dogs, that does not work very well with any ecosystem. So it's and anything in between. So a lot of national parks will not do it themselves, but there will be educators from this organization or those who went through their training, and they will talk through the Live, No, Trace principles that are so simple. And I don't know, do you know about Live, No, Trace? I know that in Europe they started it called Respect Nature, and it's kind of similar, but plan ahead and prepare. It seems so simple, but because people do not get prepared going in nature, they damage it, right? It's even like what kind of food you're packing. Do you need to take trash back or not? Travel and camp on durable surfaces. So don't step on wetlands, don't go off the trail. Dispose your waste, leave what you find, because literally there are some beaches, for example, with unusual rocks that people go for vacation and everybody takes a rock, and then in 10 years there is no beach because it's gone. Same with wildflowers, right? Everybody picks a flower, we don't have flowers. So simple things, but if you start working with people on that, they respond. Second interaction between the protected lands and non-profit could be that in the United States, every national park would have a non-profit that's called Friends of a National Park. And their main goal would be fundraising. I know when I come to countries, too many like Russia or Mongolia, they say, what are you talking about? Nobody donates over here. And I always say that, United States did not start with, like, people donate right away. It's a culture. It's a culture of small things, and we are planting seeds for it right now. And it will grow. And I know that it will work because, again, 20 years ago when I started to work on building trails back in Siberia around Lake Baikal, people didn't believe that there would be volunteers, people who would come and work for free. And they said, are you crazy? We know what volunteer means during the Soviet times. It means on Saturday you have to come and you have to work for free, and if you don't show up, you will be punished. And I said, okay, if you do not get the word volunteer, that is Russian, we'll take American word, and we'll start showing people what does it mean. So 20 years ago, no idea about volunteers. Maybe 7 years later, and if anybody interested, I can tell you more stories about how, but it was more organizations that would use volunteers and people would go. 10 years later, we had too many who wanted to come, and a lot of them will pay money just to participate in projects because they would understand why they're doing it. And I think this why is extremely important. So, helping with scientific research, like I've learned in the last couple of days, there are volunteers who work for Orthobody, and it seems they do understand why they're doing it. Not only internationals, but also local ones too. It's not a lot, but it's a start. Promotion of protected lands in social media, it's big. If you show all the cranes that I've seen last night, the person next to me said, it's 50,000. I was like, I can't believe it. It's a treasure. Today we learned that it's about 100,000 visitors that come to Orthobody. But it's 180,000 of cranes that come and visit the area. So there's something to play and enjoy, right? And putting it out there in social media would bring more visitors if we educate them, not to damage the environment, but work with locals, work with scientists. They will bring money to the region. And that is what ecotourism is. The thing is that I think this word was misused so many times. People think if they go to nature, that's ecotourism. And I say, no, no, no. Ecotourism is when the person who travels will leave everything kind of the same condition, good condition that he or she found it, or make it even better. That's ecotourism. The local person enjoyed that, the ecotourist stayed with them, left money and appreciation. Maybe it was a donation or part in trail building project or in science research that felt good to local people, and this species protected, the landscape protected. That's ecotourism. Okay. Another kind of point, it's for public groups that they are non-profit organizations usually that work on one issue. It could be the watershed of one river. It could be one animal. In the United States, that was a big thing in California. Nobody likes big predators next to farmlands. They kill cattle. There's a big conflict going on between local people and those who want to protect the animals. And a lot of this because the locals do not understand the role of the predator in a natural ecosystem. And it takes a long time to educate them. So just some years, I think a lot of people ask, how long does it take to change people's opinion? So in 1990, it was a big petition going on to change the law to stop hunting for trophy of the mountain lions in the state of California. And there were so many petitions that the government had to comply and had to stop it. So they did. And then it was a fight for another 25 years, because sometimes they would allow it, sometimes not allow it, depending who pushes, right? But the organization stayed. And it was supported not by the government, it was supported by people. And it's more and more people who are educated. But now, now it's been 20 years that it's illegal to hunt for trophy the mountain lions in these areas. And farmers whose cattle was killed would be compensated with money if they have damage. And all this comes from this big private foundation that was set up. And yes, United States, they have enough money to handle that. But I believe countries in Europe, they have the support of the European Union and more wealthier countries who could contribute because they put value into that. Well, in this website, what I really like, that there is a kids' corner. So they're preparing the next generation because the battle might be not over. And you need to make sure that little kids, they love these little kids. So that's kind of a little to summarize, right? That the national parks, they take care of the land. They restore the land through different programs. They do ecotourism. To do ecotourism, they need trails. Without trails, people don't have much to do in a national park. And if people cannot connect, cannot touch, cannot hike, cannot see, cannot smell, why would they care? They wouldn't. So you have to give people opportunities to stay in a park longer and have something for them to see. If you just see the forest or you see Pusto, that is what it is about. There is nothing. But that's where the interpretation comes. When you see the landscape, and for somebody it's Pusto, but for a scientist, it might be a story about animals, about river. You ask local person, it's a story about history in this place, their grandparents. Getting these stories together, giving them to public who visits, they start see something in Pusto that they cannot see without the stories attached. And we humans, we do not perceive numbers. You notice I don't have any numbers on the screen, because I know you will forget them. But I do have the little notes. If you want numbers, you can go and get them. But I'm trying to tell you a story, and hopefully you will remember some pieces of it because it was flowing. It was from one thing to another, going somewhere. Okay, and collaboration and sister parks. That's something that is important concept, I think. Now we are trying to think about how to connect the Horta-Baidi National Park with the Hustayma National Park in Mongolia, because both of them have horses. They have something to discuss, and maybe it will end up in sister park system. I know that DE-EvolZool National Park in Mongolia has sister park Yosemite. And because there is such nice partnership, it's exotic to go to Mongolia, and a lot of people from the States would love to do that. But for Mongolians, it's great to have a support in America to do something together, to apply for grants together. So maybe, who knows? Okay, do I have time or I don't have time?
It's 48.
Okay, I don't have time, right? Maybe I can give example of Hustayma National Park, or we can open for questions. What would you like?
Do you have any questions?
I think the example would be nice if you can continue.
I could go through example. So I chose it because both parks have Przhevalsky horses, and I thought it's relevant, it would be relevant to you. So it was very interesting traveling there because there are many national parks in Mongolia, and all of them were created by the government. But only one of them, Hustayma National Park, is managed by a non-profit organization. And there are scientists and local people who really care about this place. They run it. I learned what rangers do in Horta-Baidi National Park. They talk to farmers and make agreements that the land should be managed certain way. That's their job. In Russia, the main point of rangers is to actually a police to go and chase poachers, because poaching is huge. When I came to Mongolia, it was interesting that all of rangers over there, because they said our main role go every day around the property and shoo the domestic cattle away. And they have a lot: goats, sheep, horses, cows, camels. All of them are there in big quantities. So their main job is to get them off this land. Why? Because the problem of overgrazing is crazy over there. Mongolia is slowly, or maybe not that slowly, turning into desert because the animals eat everything possible there. And some animals are worse than others. Goats, for example, they are not native for the area. They eat the whole plant. The plant will not regrow after goat. But then it's a vicious circle because goats is a money maker for the cashmere. How many of you own cashmere products? Okay, but it's it's expensive. So I get it, I don't. But that's kind of the tendency. So, shooing the animals, you go to Pustai, the grass actually growing. You see the steppe how it's supposed to be because of one reason. There is no domestic animals over there. And guess what? There's wildlife. They promise you wildlife. They say it doesn't matter when you come, you will always see wildlife. First 5 minutes, and marmots are all over the place. They are showing, they are running around, tons of them. Then you go a little bit more, that's through the tube, but the red deer is over there. And then there are Przewalski horses. So, only because domestic animals are out, the wild animals are in. And this little fat, very important guy is very important because in Mongolia, steppe zone, that's the engineer of the steppe. That's what we call the keystone species. Without him, steppe doesn't work. And he found that this environment is safe for him because hunters in Mongolia, there is a tradition that young person does his first hunt to get a marmot. And it doesn't matter that they're protected, they go for it and they like the taste of meat. Well, comparing to 100 years ago, when there were less domestic animals and there were more marmots, it would have been okay. But now times changed, but the habits did not. And they go after marmots and they're destroying the steppes. So that's kind of the summary, right? I don't want to read. Lazy. But this is the scientific station. It's international station. And sometimes when you ask for little money, somebody gives it to you. But sometimes you need to ask for big money and something as big as solar panels. And then suddenly, oh yes, that's much better than asking for something little. So they have really good scientific facilities, and scientists from all over the world come there to study not only horses, but Mongolian steppes in general. You come in, and there is little trails, and that's their hotel in Gers. And they host people, they're warm inside, they're traditional, nobody minds. And internationals pay really good money to spend several days over there and see in the country. Mongolia, I guess, is more than Hungary that eats meat. It's the only thing that they ate 30 years ago. Nowadays, they still eat a lot of meat, but they try to diversify. And when we got to cafeteria, there was a lot. That was completely vegetarian dish over there. And I'm showing that to you because it's possible to change. Even in this crazy country that everybody eats meat, that is possible because people who are coming, they asking for something different. And also, they want to chase the domestic animals away. So they try to live what they believe in. And domestic animals is a big problem because, as a guide told me over there, locals do not ride them, they do not eat them, they don't do anything with them, they just walk the landscape. And I said, why? And they said, you know what? The bank system is not reliable. They're afraid if they sell all that and they put money in the bank, the money will be gone. I'm from Russia. When I wanted to go to the university, my family lost all money that we had in the bank. And I didn't go to the university I wanted to. Because of that, I know firsthand how it feels. So I cannot just tell Mongolians, you know, you can't do that. They can. So that's their thing. And again, when we talk about collaborations and partnerships, that would be great if a Swiss bank would come in and say, okay, we have a bank in Mongolia now. This might solve the overgrazing problem in Mongolia. Kind of weird, but it might work, right? And unless you start talking, you will never get there. And then we have a visitor center with information and good movie about the thing, because you cannot see everything, all seasons. And then you go inside, and it will be not only about horses. It will be about horses and the ecosystem and the plants. So it's all together. And they will direct you. It's gear, so it's walking in a round, right? So you walk, you read everything is fine. And then they direct you to go to the shop. And over there is no Chinese magnets, no t-shirts that are made for cheap somewhere. They have some quality souvenirs. Some of them are small and pretty cheap, that people can afford, those who don't have much money. Some of them are more expensive. And education continues to go on there. They don't say goats are bad, but they just don't sell cashmere. There is no cashmere there, but there is a rare Mongolian yak down, very expensive one. So it's a combination, small things. All this is done by local people. They work with locals and they say, we will support you as long as you do not raise more cattle. So they change this mentality. And then this is the Mongol Ecology Center. It's a non-profit that brings school groups to Hustai National Park to learn how the steppe looks like, the real steppe, the steppe they are so proud of, the steppe of their ancestors, because the steppe, how it looks nowadays, might not be something to be proud about. And then just scientific article, and it talks about how important it is and gives all the data to involve stakeholders, local people, in whatever is going on in the park. I'm done talking. I would love to answer any questions or hear your comments. How did it feel for you to hear what I was talking about? What resonated in your brain and your heart?
I think the important thing for me was the involvement of young people, this National General Ranger program that could be very important for us in Hungary, I think. And the other is involving citizens or NGOs. It's also, I think, it's very important. And I'm at the university, so I am thinking over this kind of junior or student program should implement at the university too, to try to interest young people to become biologists or become scientists or physicists or something. So that was really good. Thank you.
And students, like, I like to go when you do all the scientific, then you limit it to ecologists, botanists, zoologists, right? But if you do volunteer programs, you can go talk to future lawyers, doctors, businessmen, and kind of bring them in because we want them to be environmentalists, to care too. And they, if they have it in their head, they will think about it when they make a new law or in the future, right?
Yes.
So would you, I don't know, do you have plans to work in a national park? That's a question for students, I guess. Is it something that you consider?
Yes, I come from Kenya and we have diversity of national parks and reserve. Yeah, and our government really invests so much in it because it's one of our major activities, tourism, especially the national park, the safaris. Yeah, so this really takes me back to my home and my heart. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation first. It would be sort of a question and a comment, if you don't mind. I was just thinking, I have minimum experience in like, how to say, reach out programs. We have this system in the university. I also work at the university. And we have this system of organizing summer camps, scientific summer camps, which is more for a filtered audience. But I found that it was really a good experience. I participated 2 or 3 times as a tutor. So I was receiving students, and it was a huge amount of work to prepare because we don't know who are the kids we've got, what backgrounds who are coming, and I think making preparation more exciting is also really important for the tutors who ever thought about educating or not educating, or just talk or communicate about environmental education. And what I found also very important, because in Hungary we have these years, in the past years especially, we had difficulties with finding the proper teachers because they're leaving the country. But I believe that teacher education is also very important frontline of the whole question. What kind of experience, would you have any kind of experience in this area, teacher education?
So, yes, there are a lot of different ways what you can do. In one is when national park, for example, has a lot of materials to work with, and they have local schools, and they would make a fair sometime, usually in the spring. It will be a teachers' fair when teachers can come and you make tea for them and you talk to them, and then you show all the materials, and also you not just show, you play this material with them. Like imagine you're students and that's how I would teach. Now your turn, try to teach the next one. So sometimes it will be several days of that depending on like place was held. So that's definitely works the best. There are also the national programs. There's a program, Project WET, Project WILD, Project Learning Tree. They're not government run, but they are kind of national curriculum for informal education. And they have really good materials. If you are interested, I can, give you links where you can look. But again, they don't just give materials. You cannot buy them. You have to sign up for their classes. You come together and they walk you through that. You play with that, you ask questions. So and these teachers become more confident about what they're doing. Because in many cases, teachers, they want to do something, but they're afraid that they don't know something. And it's kind of helping with this barrier. Another thing that we started to do, it was really good in Russia, again, addressing this problem, is to create an environmental education board games. And because the board game, not simple one like walking, saying you walk through things, but you really put meaning in that, and the game will check the correct answers for teachers. So a teacher does not have to know everything. It will be self-correcting, and then it works well. Sometimes it's good to look into curriculum of what they have to do. Like for teachers, professional development hours are important. If you can fit into this system, and like national park or non-profit with good credentials can fill this role of providing professional development, it works really nicely. So there are many formats how it works, and it's a very important step if you want to spread the knowledge.
Thank you, Naranj. It's really similar to what we tried 2-3 occasions before together with Orthobai National Park. But yeah, I think we feel the need of a little more inspirational practice.
Yes.
In this area. I would love those things. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think it's time to go for a lunch.
Sounds good.
And we can continue the discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.